to elements that you may not find directly relevant to the upcoming workshop that CII has announced, but which would give you something like a background that you may want to understand. And your relevance to the program is something that I could take very specific questions on as we move along. So Empretec is Emprendedores Tecnologia. It's a concatenation of two words. These are Spanish words because the program was initiated as a technical assistance program requested of the United Nations in Argentina and Brazil in the early 80s. The three facets of the program are policy advice and recommendations, which we make available to governments and government agencies. Entrepreneurship, we believe, is a competency-driven subject rather than a skills-driven subject. The difference between skills and competencies has been established through a research that UNCTAD has conducted over 10,000 entrepreneurs in 70 countries in the early 80s. Which is why we mention inspiring entrepreneurship as a very key, almost a cornerstone element so far as the program is concerned. Business linkages between SMEs and transnational corporations is another very important theme of the UN Conference on Trade and Development. We believe that to develop, one needs to trade. TNCs here are the transnational corporations that operate and own global value chains. So we will also, during the course of this presentation, look at ways in which developing country SMEs can integrate into global value chains. So far so good. A technical assistance program of the UN. We're looking at soft skills facilitation of entrepreneurs. The mandate is high impact entrepreneurs. So we work with aspiring entrepreneurs and settled entrepreneurs and work on mindset changes. Internationally competitive SMEs, this is the third point here, so help build and expand innovative and internationally competitive SMEs. That's a fairly important point. Some of you would be familiar with David McClelland of Harvard University, and he's the one who's been helping us in the early 80s in developing the competency-driven methodology for entrepreneurship development. So that's something that we keep at the core of the methodology. The Global Entrepreneurship Network, this is about 500,000 strong now, high potential and high performance entrepreneurs. The program is available in most of the developing world today. These are the products that Empretec offers. So you have an entrepreneurship training workshop, which is what the CII has written to you about in its introductory note to you and to which you've responded. Entrepreneurship is about promoting an entrepreneurial culture in organizations, usually in large organizations with, let's say, both upstream as well as downstream groups of organized officers. So we could be talking about ancillary manufacturers to an automotive major. We could also be talking about distribution channels that are managed by fairly large companies. Agribusiness, this is an important theme within UNCTAD, treatment of farming as a business. This is something that we are working on with NABARD and a few other development agencies in the country. We spoke about business linkages in the past, and a very important theme is women entrepreneurship, looking at ways in which we can engage and invest in women in business. A fairly large platform for this is made available through a Women in Business Award, which is given every second year by the Secretary General of UNCTAD to one chosen woman entrepreneur. And there are literally hundreds of thousands of nominations for this award. Young people in business, especially looking at entrepreneurship as a career option, or as career, indeed, as career for young people is something that we're working on. Micro-entrepreneurship is another area. Now, some of these elements will be introduced in the country as we move along, but at this point, the flagship program is the Entrepreneurship Training Workshop. So what is the Entrepreneurship Training Workshop? I mentioned to you a little earlier that we see skills and competencies as two very different things and very different inputs. So when UNCTAD was called upon by the government of Argentina to set up a study to understand why 10,000 businesses that were made finance available to coaching, mentoring services, access to markets, why is it that they were faltering? UNCTAD realized that the fact that businesses were faltering had very little to do with skill sets. In fact, the government at that time in Argentina had carefully chosen entrepreneurs that were funded and had made put in a lot of effort behind the selection process. However, if you could please, however, it realized that out of the top 1% of entrepreneurial firms worldwide, about 85% of entrepreneurs connected with these firms did not have a degree. Also, it realized that most of the entrepreneurs in successful organizations, in successful situations, had failed about 2.5 times during the course of their entrepreneurial journeys. So when you put all of this together, it clearly indicates that skills are not responsible for entrepreneurial outcome as much as competencies are. So there were about 30 very specific competencies that were drilled into the technical assistance program that later became Empretec in Argentina and very quickly spread across all of Latin America. And these competencies were distilled into the training workshop, which you see here as the Empretec training, the Entrepreneurship Training Workshop. You would see most of Latin America covered, Sub-Saharan Africa and West Africa. In Asia, the Russian Federation and India are the two countries that have requested this program. The Ministry of MSME and the Planning Commission are involved in the installation effort. There are many other countries that have requested the program, and we're waiting to look at how funding develops behind these requests. And that's the track record. The 300 has moved up to about 350,000 entrepreneurs, over 9,000 workshops now. This was the first group of entrepreneurs and intrapreneurs that we had trained at the Paladin Ostrich. You see this picture just outside the Paladin Ostrich in Geneva, outside the UNCTAD headquarters. This is the only public event that UNCTAD has allowed to be organized at the headquarters, at their headquarters. So you see a mix of entrepreneurs, fairly young entrepreneurs, family business owners, those who are being groomed to take on positions of leadership in fairly large companies. So it's a fairly representative group of what we would see in a workshop, in an entrepreneurship training workshop. We have members of Planning Commission here. We have learning and development specialists. We have a couple of directors of IIT, young entrepreneurs wanting to take their businesses cross-border. This was another workshop we organized in Geneva. We have several entrepreneurs from other countries. You would see 7 nationalities here. Many entrepreneurs from other countries want to connect with Indian entrepreneurs and intrapreneurs. So you have a cultural, cross-cultural approach here that's borne out. At the request of the Planning Commission, we've organized workshops in Bangalore, 2 workshops in Bangalore, 2 in Kolkata. The Minister of Entrepreneurship, the Minister of MSME at that time is seen here along with a few stakeholders, Canara Bank and a few others, who have been supporting and helping. This was another workshop that we conducted in Bangalore. The head of HR of Indian Oil is this gentleman here, Mr. Biswajit Roy. He's an executive director. He demonstrated personal entrepreneurial competencies which are far higher than some seasoned entrepreneurs that you see in this group, which is why we've selected him to go on to become a trainee trainer. So he'll be shadowing our master trainers for 6 workshops till such time as he becomes a full-fledged trainer as part of the program. Mr. Samarendra Sahu he's the Additional Development Commissioner of India. He participated in the workshop as well, and he's now requesting banks to get involved. So he's written to about 12 public sector banks requesting them to select and nominate high potential and high performance entrepreneurs to this program. Some of our younger delegates. So this is what the workshop is. These are a couple of trainers. And the governments of Brazil and Argentina and Romania are helping in the installation of the program in India. So when you participate in a workshop, it would be either these trainers or others who are entrepreneurs first. They are not professors. They do not get a check at the end of the month. They are entrepreneurs, and we believe it's important for an entrepreneur to connect with other entrepreneurs and intrapreneurs, so far as promoting an entrepreneurial culture is concerned. We've had a good response in India. This is, for example, an IAS officer who's gone through the workshop. He heads the Entrepreneurship Development Institute in Tamil Nadu. Several forward-looking states have nominated stakeholders. Stakeholders would be officers who are wanting to improve administrative efficiencies within their scheme of things. So IAS, IES officers, IFS officers have been coming to the workshop on a regular basis. These are some statistics that you might want to look at. Now there are firms that are wanting to look at hiring people with entrepreneurial competencies, which is why you would see some fairly important statistics here with respect to even securing jobs. Monthly income increased is another important statistic. You'd look at annual revenues, and this is over roughly 500,000 entrepreneurs that have gone through the workshop, and this is being recorded by the UN and is available publicly on the annual report. Assessment of the contribution of the Empretec program to one's growth, profitability before and after, ETW, again a very important statistic. Let me move on to the business linkages piece. Now, business linkages, as I mentioned earlier, is about connecting global value chains to partner-ready suppliers, partner-ready SMEs. It's not important that the global value chains are cross-border. We have a fairly important component of consumption through the government's public procurement policy, and not too many SMEs are able to meet standards that are requested. So there are a series of programs, including certification of enterprises, not just personal entrepreneurial competencies, but we are now talking about enterprise certification across industry, which would help in local businesses meeting international standards. I'm not going to take you through the mind maps in detail. I'll leave you with this in the event you're interested. But the elements in red are roughly the areas where we're actually putting in emphasis. The state entrepreneurship strategy, optimization of regulatory environment, facilitation of technology exchange and innovation, awareness and networking, improvement in access to finance. For example, there are younger entrepreneurs who would like to see intellectual property being recognized as collateral by banks. So we're working in very specific areas which would lead to some of these elements seeing light of day. So I was just mentioning intellectual property. Here you have it. If you can see my pointer, encouraging banks to accept intellectual property rights as collateral. Okay. These are certain areas. Now, so far as the Empretec program in general is concerned, we're offering certification at an enterprise level outside of the ETW. Coaching, specialized coaching and mentoring services are being made available by experts, by subject matter experts from UNCTAD and through program facilitators that are being appointed at this time in the country. The installation phase would take another 3 years to complete in the country. Learning and events. So there are programs, there are study tours, there are event-led activities, conference-driven activities that are being set up across the country at this time. I wanted to take your questions. I wanted to leave you with some thoughts around the possibility of Empretec adding value to your own entrepreneurial or intrapreneurial journeys, and I wanted to take questions that you may have. Please.